Hello, good afternoon. Today is November 20th, 2014. My name is Carl Straube. I am a special education teacher at Three Rivers Independent School District on the Three Rivers Elementary campus. Today I will be doing my observing video as the first of 3 required videos for my practicum plan. Today I will be attending a faculty meeting at our elementary campus in our elementary library. This meeting is scheduled for right after school until about 4:30. The agenda for the meeting will start with a discussion about what is the definition for rigor, which will be provided by our elementary principal, which will then lead to a discussion about process, supporting, and readiness standards. The third part of the meeting we will break up into groups to discuss the strategies learned in our K2 Lead Forward conference. The meeting should conclude with various and miscellaneous campus news items. I believe the overall process for the Lead Forward will include 4 steps for being ready from the start, getting ready for the STAR test. And the 4 steps are process, language-rich environment, aligned instruction, and the young learners. Some of the lead forward topics could be how to apply mathematics to everyday life, using problem-solving models that incorporate analyzing given information, selecting tools and technology that are appropriate for accomplishing our goals and objectives, communicating mathematical ideas, reasoning, and their implications using multiple representation, how to organize, record, and communicate mathematical ideas, how to analyze mathematical relationships to connect and communicate mathematical ideas, and to display and explain and justify mathematical ideas. And also to arguments using precise mathematical language in written or oral communication. I am looking forward to attending this meeting as an observer and taking notes on the meeting. My elementary principal has been so kind to include a PowerPoint in the presentation and share it with me before the meeting. And I'll go over the PowerPoint very briefly. In the PowerPoint, it starts out with the cover page of TEKS Performance Standards, the Lead Forward summary. And then she'll go into her what does rigor mean, and she'll give her definition of to think more about it. And then she'll give examples of rigor and some fill-in-the-blank questions of how to fill in the blank to get the answers to what is some examples of rigor and the results of those trying to answer those questions. She'll talk about our primary and elementary learning, the foundations for all of learning, how we must have a strong foundation, and how we must build hope and confidence to equal independence in our learners. She will talk about how the most successful schools sustain curiosity, and how do we prep our students for a lifetime of learning. Also in her PowerPoint, she will go over the word play as an acronym, PLAY. The P stands for processes, the L stands for language-rich environment, the A stands for alignment, and the Y stands for young learners. Too often we give answers to remember rather than problems to solve is a quote by Roger Lewis that she will also give in her PowerPoint presentation. She gives us a TEKS snapshot and has it color-coded by blue, purple, green, and yellow, talking about the process standards, the reporting category, the readiness standards, and the supporting standards. She has the PowerPoint to where we will divide up into subject groups. We will separate into 3 different groups: reading, math, and science social studies. The group leaders will review our packets. They will discuss how the new standards work within the subject area, and we will discuss cross-curricular activities. I am looking forward to attending this meeting as an observer and a note taker, and I look forward to the reflective summary at the end of it using the Gibbs reflective cycle, and I think it's going to be a great experience for me, and I look forward to seeing the end product. Thank you very much.
And I will try to go through it as quickly as possible. We had an excellent conference on Tuesday, and anytime if you have to be away from school, whenever it's good information like that, then you love every minute of it. Plus, it was nice for you to eat at Salt Runs. That was fun too. But you know, those little perks that you get whenever you go on a conference somewhere. But anyway, but we had an excellent time, and we really enjoyed all of the information that they shared. And it really enlightened us on some things that we already knew, but it reiterated things that we, you know, things that you hear here and there, but putting it all together and making it make sense, I guess, was the main thing. So I'm going to start out with the first slide, which is what does rigor mean? Raise your hand if you are able to define rigor. Whenever people talk about this catchphrase, does anyone have a good meaning or definition that you've heard that you just really, really like and understand?
It makes me think of persistence. You know, like, even though it's hard, you keep, you kind of bump up the levels.
I was going to say digging deeper.
Right, exactly. Using higher level things, exactly. All of our Bloom's taxonomy questioning. And that's how they defined it, which was basically to think more about it. And I thought, well, that really makes sense because, you know, I think that sums it up, and I said I'm going to have posters made for all of our classrooms because as soon as you know, taking it as far as you can, or if you, especially your higher level students, as soon as you push them as far as they can go, you can throw one other question in there, and then they have to go back and think more about it. And that's basically what rigor is. And so, examples of rigor are the next slide down. And these are some that I've come up with. And if any of you have other things that you do that you know of work, please chime in. But things like, okay, these are some of the things they listed on Tuesday. You know, find another way to solve the problem. And just make your own rule to solve the problem. Or what rule can you find that would be applicable to what it is that you're working on? Or do you see a pattern? If we change this to what you're solving, what would happen to or how would you solve the problem? If you change one number or change one word in the problem. And this, of course, applies to all subjects. And then, of course, what would happen if we did this? Or if this happened. And what I found most intriguing about it was if you continue to add these things and challenge yourself to come up with more questioning strategies, then that's your differentiation right there. Because when you have your kids who rush through their math problems and finish their worksheet and say, here, I'm done, and you know they probably made 100, then you can go back and say, okay, now find another way to solve this. Or, okay, now go find another way to read it. See if you can find something else that you've read about. And I know that's good teaching and things that many of you do on a daily basis, but that just really rings home that that's the rigor that you need to be providing. And so just to make sure, kind of a checklist to make sure that it's happening if and when possible. Whenever you think there's nothing else you can do, or whenever you think a child is you know, it's just gonna sit there for 5 minutes waiting on everybody else to finish, you know, that's when you can throw those questioning strategies in there and throw in the, you know, find another way to solve it. Okay, you did this to solve it this way, now let's go back and find another way. And, while I'm thinking about it, I see many of you, and the reason why I wanted everyone here today is because all of us work with kids. All of us work in some way, shape, or form with students. And if we all keep this in mind of keeping rigor and curiosity as part of our campus, then that's how we build it across the board. So that's why I wanted everyone here today was to listen to this discussion and know that you all play a very important role in helping your students be more successful. Any questions or comments on that, or anybody that would like to chime in and say something that would be listed?
I do like the assessments that you've done for the CBAs, because I think it's brought to light some issues, maybe that I didn't, like, gaps I saw in my own teaching, so that's kind of helped me do things, that maybe I wasn't catching before.
When you read those questions and how they're asked and the answer choices that are given, helps you go back
And then to have the time to sit and think about it.
Exactly, yes, yes, for sure. Anyone else?
I think it's interesting, did you say that had the right answer?
No, I didn't talk about that. But go ahead.
Not always make students look for the right answer. There could be multiple answers and ways to solve things. The right answer is killing us is how you put it. So, I thought that was interesting.
Where you teach, you squeeze it out of the kids to only find the one right answer. Right.
More of a, like you said, less testing, more assessing, that kind of helps you even as a verbal or oral thing, kind of, to just see who's catching, who's not catching,
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And granted, the conference was geared towards the K-2 instruction, but I wanted to share it with everyone because I thought it was definitely applicable to all of us because we all have students who do have gaps and some of our older students who are working on lower levels. But the main thing is how and that's a good segue to my next slide, how the primary and elementary, you know, all of our learning is the foundation for our kids and how far they're going to go with all of their learning. So if y'all want to turn to page 2, as I said, and like the one gentleman that described it, he said I was standing on the 8th floor of that hotel, and I wanted to, and he said I was laying in bed thinking, I hope the foundation of this building is good, because if not, then, you know, we're all in trouble. And that really brings home to the importance of the work that all of you do on a daily basis, because you're building your kids' foundation for college and, you know, even to go into the workforce and all of the, whatever it is they're going to do, they have to have and be successful at this level in order to go on to their next endeavors. The other thing that they talked about with elementary that's unique to elementary is that whenever students have hope and confidence, that's how they grow independence. And so hope is not something that I normally think about. I don't know about all of you, but I thought that was something, a different way to look at it. Whenever our kids leave 2nd grade and go into the next grades, most of them have lost their hope, and many of them have lost their confidence. And, you know, and we all know the difference in, you know, when they're kinder, pre-K teachers, students love their teachers, and their teacher is the best person in the whole wide world. And you know, as they get older and they've been through the system and, you know, receive different things and different experiences, some of them lose that love for school. But I thought hope was a different way of thinking about, you know, something that we do on it every day, and for them to have that hope. And I think it goes back to even talking with the kids about what do you want to be when you grow up, you know, and for them to see what's beyond tomorrow, what's beyond next week, what's beyond 4th grade. You know, think about what it is that they want to be when they grow up and how they're going to have hope and where it is that they're going. And then they talked about, we discussed how the most successful schools sustain that curiosity and the wanting to learn and, you know, the reiteration of how to, of you know, the curiousness of the world and how to experiment. And I said that's how, when they were talking about that, I said, I think that's what's neat about our science lab. Our science fair. Because because that is a true experiment where kids have a curiosity point of, what would happen if I did this? And that is a different avenue for them to go about They're doing a true experiment, trying to find a true solution to a problem or trying to find the answer whenever they really don't even know, they don't know where it's going to take them. But it's that curiosity, and so I think it's neat how that's, that we can keep that curiosity in place for that group of kids who do the science fair, but maybe something we want to look at increasing, so, or, getting more kids involved in honing in on that curiosity, because, like Ms. Wagner and I were discussing earlier, what Kendall wants to learn, what's the difference, what runs faster, a cat or a dog, so I was like, okay, how do I do this? But she really wants to know what animal runs faster, and, but she wants to be a vet someday too, so we'll see how that goes. But regardless, just that curiosity that is a lifelong skill of always wanting to learn, and all of you have that curiosity every day because you're curious as to how can you meet your kids' needs, and what can I do different, what can I change, and how can I meet this kid's needs over that, in a different way. But it's something that you're trying to do on a daily basis. So you don't want to add anything to the curiosity part of it. So doing okay? Keep going. All right, real quick, something that we discussed, and I thought this is where we bring together our our accountability with our required improvement information and the state accountability and all of our standards and bringing it together. They talked about the acronym PLAY, and it's on the back of one of these forms. But if you remember PLAY, that basically ties everything into all of the things that you have to do on a daily basis. So remember our processes, and and that goes back to our standards, having a language-rich environment, and that's bringing out those big words, using as many words as possible, as they talked about at our poverty training at the beginning of the year, the difference in a middle-class home and a lower-class home, and the difference of the number of words that the students hear. And so keeping a language-rich environment, align instruction, and that's where your TEKS and curriculum come in. And the last one was young learners. And that's where they said we have to keep it fun. We have to keep things on a fun for our young learners, because that's where they keep their curiosity and they keep their hope and their confidence. So I thought that was a neat acronym. And then as you can see the quote there, too often we give answers to remember rather than problems to solve. So if you will, in your TEKS binder, in your curriculum binder, there should be a page that looks like, it's called a Lead Forward TEKS Snapshot. And this is what it looks like for kindergarten. You don't need to take it out. I just want to explain to you what it looks like. If you don't have it in your binder, then I will, and if you don't know all of the subjects, I just want to explain to you how it's
You have it, Miss Tyler? Laura, we can share.
Can I share too?
Here, I'll share with you.
What do you have?
She has a fifth and a sixth.
Fifth and sixth?
This one had all of these. Yeah, that one. Laid out as not.
okay. If you don't have one, you may look on it to another person if you need.
That. That's a little it's a stone process. It's just set up. Can I see what it looks like?
Is that ours? Oh, she has one.
I've got one.
It's on in my other pile.
I got a good one.
That's right.
Okay. This one's color-coded on my slide, but of course, that's okay. The first color that I want to explain to you line is, of course, you have your process standards, your supporting standards, your, thank you, readiness. I was looking at purple and I was like, and that's your reporting category. So, your process standards, the reason why Leap Forward has color-coded them blue is because you're supposed to think of like water and waves of knowledge flowing through all of the curriculum. So, your process standards are the blue standards that connect to all of the different parts of the curriculum. And if you notice, I don't know how many of you have math, but the blue process standards for math, this is kindergarten. They are worded exactly the same, kindergarten through, I believe, 8th grade. And so I thought that was interesting. All I did was change the little number at the front. So K.1a says, apply mathematics to problems arising in everyday life, society, and the workplace. That is worded the same way all the way through 8th or 9th grade. It just changes the number or the letter at the beginning. So your process standards are the same standards throughout from grade level to grade level, and they should be, we called it married as your foundation to all of the other standards. So it not only goes from grade to grade, but it goes across the content area, across that particular content area to all of your other standards. Any questions about the blue? Yes.
No, this means this is different from these are set.
The readiness standards, which are colored green, if you think of green as in growing and what you need for the next grade level, this is the group of standards that if you ask a teacher, say you ask a 3rd grade teacher, what do you need your kids to come with from 2nd grade? These are the green are the most important skills, and if they have nothing else, is they at least get these green, the readiness skills, and they'll be ready for the next grade level. So you think of green as in growing, and that if you, like I said, if you have nothing else, those are the standards your kids have to be ready for the next grade level. Not only are they, and obviously if you think about the acronym of STAR, State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness, it is a readiness test, and what your kids need to be ready for the next grade level. That's why 65% of the test is taken from the green, the readiness standards in 3rd through 8th grade. The yellow, which is the supporting standards, are all of the TEKS. Basically, I look at it as your details. You know, your details are explanations of the minor parts of your curriculum that you need to cover, you need to have it taught, you need to have assessed, but it's not the meat of your curriculum. That's where your readiness comes from. And that's why 35% of the STAR test is taken from your yellow supporting standards. Y'all remember what yellow was? Shed light. Shed light.
Shit. Oh, wait, I put, slow down, put a light on it, yeah.
So, that's what I wanted to explain to you about your standards and how you can use this color-coded document in your binder. And I can print more for you, or Jessica can. Like I said, I tried today and I couldn't find the right place to be. But it's interesting how they go from grade level to grade level, and it's a good visual for how the peaks are divided. And so, like Ms. Woodward said, this is just my record, but I have no idea what it is. I thought that was interesting how, just shedding light on the situation. So, any questions about that? Okay.
I think I read on mine that using the blue is how you increase the rigor.
I was gonna say, it's got a lot
Yeah, I
of
did.
analyze, justify, it's got
No,
those
but they
kinds
said if you're wanting to increase the rigor, you use more of the blue. And
Yes.
that all of the test questions will be multi-coded with the blue.
Just like the blue is how I have to teach, and the green and the yellow is what you need.
Right. That's a good way of looking at it, yes.
What was that again, Ms. Denise?
Well, from that conference, I said the blue were the how I have to teach, and the green and the yellow are what I have to teach, is what I wrote down, that's what I got from the conference.
So there were some other very neat details and strategies that we learned about that were unique per subject, and that's what I wanted to do for about 10 minutes is break up into subject area groups. So if we can make a reading group, a math group, and an ELA group, and I have the packets that I'm going to have the, not ELA, science and social studies, color, math, ELA, or reading, and science and social studies, that's the 3rd group.
Oh, Joey, we should have brought some yarn.
So,
Joey.
and we have the packets that show our strategies, and especially for math, they explain the difference in the old teaks and the new teaks. And that's why I wanted just for our people that were at each one to go over those. So if you can, we'll make the big table English language arts. This table social studies go over here, and math and this group over here. So.
Maybe this back is kind of turn that off.
I don't care.
I'll be short and sweet for you. Like, good, maybe you can help me because the only one I didn't get.
Where's math going?
And our last part.
Where's the math going?
I didn't hear because I was going to stay at this table. Do you know where math was going?
See, we didn't do
Right here.
Okay, let's just everybody's coming to ELA. Yeah.
I'm recording.
It'll be short and sweet.
Oh, I don't want to sit by you.
It probably will be 10 minutes long.
No, let me grab one from over here.
15 days. I mean, within the 15-day time, we did
They can make more if everybody gets one.
No, I'm not being smart like I really need to. Okay.
But I can do 2 bites. Even if they're
And then the next part you're not wrong.
it's the biggest number.
I'm like, and grabbing these. You get one already?
One day a week and have them rewrite.
Okay, I'm going to do mine like this, so pay attention.
I don't know if I have, not this one.
This is what my group did. We came in and we played a little game that we looked at the genres and we looked at the purpose and what you demand of that genre. We played a math game. That's what we did. Okay, so you know that. And then we looked at if you give a mouse a cookie. And she read us the book and then we did a drawing where you put a sequence. I mean, this is the one I got the least out of. And then we did a video game where we talked about, she had books or had different things, you took the genre and you made a tic-tac-toe game. And that's what we did. About the different genres. Like our fiction was, I don't know about the remember, and our poetry was a story about the heart, and geography was frogs, repository was seeds, and recipes, for seeds are the following steps. That's all we did in our system.
See, and then second grade was a little bit different, but they mainly stressed the different genres.
Yeah,
You know, and so we did a lot of that. They were saying that in your classroom, you should, as you read your stories, you should somehow graph the stories underneath the different genres so that the kids can look at that and remember, you know, and what makes up one genre as opposed to a different genre. She was saying to kind of talk about cross-curricular type of things, and in the language arts, they didn't really talk that much about it. Other than one of the stories that we did read was called Beatrice's Goats, and it was a family in Africa that were very poor, and they couldn't afford to go to school, the kids, and people, because they donated money, they buy goats for certain families in the community, and they could raise those goats, and when they had babies, they could sell them for money, and they could sell their milk, and so it was able to let the kids go to school, and so it did tie into the math with the finances type of thing, you know, like the donating and earning and spending and all that, so that did kind of
And I say something with that on ours, and you give them The mouse cookie. They did the science where you did goods and services. Which ones did he ask for that were goods and which ones were services? That was the cross curriculum.
So, I mean, they did try to tie some of that in. And then they were talking about a menu of options for planning, and I thought this was really good. You know, they had the different, towards the back, the different genres you come in, and then what text you're gonna use for it, and then what process you're looking at, and your potential product. So they were saying you can use the same genre, and you can use articles, but the process, maybe one day you're gonna use an article and you're gonna make connections and come up with the potential product with that. Or another day, the article, and you're working on making differences, and you could use a different product. So it gave you potential products, a lot of different ones, which is a product. It was laid out much easier than this. And when you left, you had actual activities that you could apply in your classroom, as opposed to, oh yes, you need to do a product, but go forth and create, and you're left like, I don't know what I'm doing. This, it was very good. It was well laid out, and you knew activities, specific activities to hit certain peaks and how you could do a product. And I thought it was good. It was good. That was y'all's last session.
It was.
You can read it.
But everyone else expressed this.
Well, I'm gonna say something about the language just because of the groups that I have out in the ministry groups. And last year, I realized I was probably saying several ways sometimes. So this year I incorporated a word of the week everywhere. And even though we talked about the definition, I could tell they still didn't understand it because I would make them use it in a sentence and they couldn't do it. But so this week was our word. Our word was blast. And so everybody wanted to say, it means blast off. Well, I don't let them tell me, no, you have to tell me the other words. You can't use the word I'm telling you because I don't know what blast off means, So they would say it means take off. But the word blast, by the definition, means a gust, a rush of air, or wind. So I kept trying to explain that to them. Every time they wanted to say blast, and finally somebody said blast that way, which is that's what the kids said. They always wanted to say we had a blast at the party. But then when I asked them to tell me what does blast mean at the party, they couldn't tell me that. So we had to go back, and I mean it's okay. I tried to say one of the words last week was soil. Nobody knew what that was, and finally, when I got it across, it would have been dirt on the ground, but the soil that they wanted them to understand was that you soil your shirt. And so they always wanted to say, it's dirt. Well, it is dirt, but and then, so I made them I started giving them an example, like when a baby goes to the bathroom in their diaper, it's soil. But, I mean, it's they don't hear those words. So, oh, I know.
No, they went
Yeah. Preen was one of our words today because we're doing PE. Nobody knew what preen meant. Nobody had never even heard the word or knew preen. Yeah. Okay. Well,
For second grade words.
but you know what? It's in science. It's in those nonfiction books about birds that you say. So I was trying to tell them what preen meant. Well, then that grossed them out too. Oh, they're using their beak to clean, But I mean, I didn't realize how low a lot of the vocabulary is.
That's part of the problem in math too, is when you get to math and they don't understand what you want, what you're looking for.
That's all the work. Right, look at this, equation form, multiplication.
Well, if we're working on these common denominators and moving over and over it, what are the multiples? What? That's in fifth. Right now we're doing in fifth. It may start in fourth though.
I was like, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Today that worked better where I circled a symbol and then took the cubes out. First, I do touch points. So those I do touch points. Those like fire and then do touch points really good. But the other ones they have the opportunity to do the cubes. That was a lot better where they took the higher number. And then they added on, let's say 6 plus 4, circle the 6, put the 6 in the brain, and then they count on 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I do that. That's what Mom told me to do. And when I asked you that today, that made sense to me. 6 and
That's why they're only drawing the smallest number of cubes now. I'm thinking, I don't have a teacher's guide for that.
That's what I'm getting at it, because I haven't been able to really look.
You're not looking at the lessons.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this, but I haven't been able to really. It doesn't. When I looked, it didn't really explain it to me.
You know what you can do?
I don't know how high.
You can look at the instructions now.
It tells you
You
which
can load that on
vocabulary
your
you really need to be
computer,
using.
on your smartboard.
Yeah, I put it on already. So we did that part together. We did 8 of them together. You know what it has to be? We did all that together. I went through every one of them.
Yeah, kids come up, but of course I've had third graders.
And this is all because that report,
Today we did it, and I didn't hand the papers up right away. We did that together. And then when I gave them the papers, I said, now y'all copy everything that we did. Because if I try to do the papers right away, they want to go on.
If you will take about 1 more
Then we
minute.
missed the lesson for that day, the whole instructor. I had made some come up there. Some of them are so slow. I hate calling on them. Crying all the time. I know, that's why I've been doing it. Really successful. Okay.
This is made up of principal, I mean, all those that were just texts.
But I do. I've been trying every day. Everybody gets questions.
Lined it out, this format, it's pretty much free. And this is what's in our Bible.
But Joe was saying, it's not the reason we switched to this. Now, I'm not saying this is, she's not switched, I think it's just part of it too. But she says this stuff is gone, this stuff is lost.
That is true. Horrible.
Mr. Escamilla loves C-scope as math teacher.
It's horrible. And when I say that,
It's illegal to use it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's. We had it in Catula, and that was horrible. And then they even had to write up how there was no growth. And plus, the lessons that they used were so expensive.
Okay, now, are y'all doing HSP math also?
No, what's that?
HSP, the book?
Texas Smack, no.
So what is it?
Yes, that's it.
say that
We're not doing it, every time.
in the human species, we are women.
I'm telling you.
You need to be doing both.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
That's how we explain it for you.
Well, I haven't come back. We're doing go math at the seabed and a flip flop.
Better be doing both. Kids will be way ahead if you do.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, Excel is
others?
good for just
You don't, you're missing 75 ticks on it. There's a big gap.
Yes,
That's what we're struggling with this is.
I'm just.
this is what shape is this?
All the way up.
Now you have to be able to analyze and see how it goes to
Right.
They never do that. They tell the kid they show the square. Don't say make the shape. 2 kids now you know how to do it. So you hold. I'm sorry. It was. I mean, it sounds weird.
I have. People probably don't like me. They don't care because I'm going to teach kids. That's why I had so many questions. That I was going through that curriculum.
Ways that we can,
What's that?
to increase. But they really talked about, we really discussed like cross-curricular connections. And so maybe, I know it's easier in the self-contained classes to do cross-curricular because you know what you already taught that morning and you're bringing in other aspects. But for them to be more departmentalized, I know you tried to do cross-curricular content. And for the sometimes you're able to see good and sometimes you can't. But if you think about it, if you look across the board at the way that your teeth are lined out, then you're able to cover and reiterate things from the other subjects and content areas without having to, you feel like you're killing yourself trying to get everything in. But there are ways to, for example, reading the storybook. In our science and social studies session, in our session, they read those shoes. And in first grade, they did if you give a mouse a pancake. And then relating it to the financial literacy. A good work. A cookie.
I think there is a few.
This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna this is seaward, a pig. Go Matt.
So it talks about, for example, in social studies, you have your families making when buying goods and services. Identify examples of goods and services in the homeschooling community. Establishing wants and needs, and then you can go over to science and what organisms need to live. Math, using data to create or graphs, but identify income as a means of obtaining goods and services, oftentimes making choices between wants and needs. And then going over to ELAR as far as analyzing and inferences, drawing conclusions, making inferences, and using textual support. So there are ways that you can tie things across the curriculum and looking at your key pieces that you need to cover each 6 weeks. And maybe your neighbor's doing it for you and you just have it. So just communicate and make that problem. But I really appreciate all of you discussing, and like I said, I hope that you got a good summary. We're trying to figure out how to get more information from the Lead Forward website. It's an excellent resource, and if there are any other conferences or professional developments that we could go to, I think that they are well worth it. So, any questions as far as what we talked about today? Or comments, concerns? Okay. Any questions about next week and everything going on next week that we need to cover? Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask something? I tried to get around that K through 2 on Wednesdays. I kind of think intervention is going to be a waste of time. And so I talked to some of the teachers in 4th, 5th, but not very many in 7th and 6th grade. I would like to pull my oral readers and I'll come to you and work with them for just a little bit, because getting them after school and listening to that many, I can't get it done without parents having to wait a long time. Just for that day, would that be a problem for anybody in 4th, 5th, and 6th? I mean, I don't know what y'all have planned that day, but if it is, I won't come to you. Yes. Okay. And what I thought I would do is go to all the K 1st and 2nd and see if they needed anything. And if they're okay, then I'll go on and just pull my oral.
I have no idea. Okay. I think we're just surviving it. I think we're just going to review on that day. You're not going to say it. Yeah. Don't worry about that whole week, honestly.
Okay.
Because Tuesday we have a field trip. Monday I have a parent coming in to do Christmas activities with them. We're going to do a Christmas project.
I don't even know.
So I'll just keep it.
I've been focused so much on the ELA the past 2 weeks.
I'm just not thinking about the week. And then Wednesday, probably lost.
But if you ran a said it's supposed to be coming, it may not be, it may not be the way.
Okay. I'm gonna bring it to you. Okay.
I'm in my class all day on Fridays.
She's excited to hear more during with the direct. She'll be fine. Reading Horizons, decoding, she'll be fine.
Okay, good.
That concludes the meeting. Hello, this is Carl Straube again. This is the reflection part of the video after the observation of one of my faculty meetings. The meeting started out with a delay because of some technology issues. The technology issues could not be solved in time for the meeting, so the administrator had to move on without the use of her PowerPoint. She did have 2 handouts for us that were very helpful and organized, and definitely aided in our understanding and the outline of the agenda of the meeting. The first handout was a copy of our PowerPoint with a place to take notes out to the side of each slide, which I thought was very helpful. The second handout dealt with the Lead Forward program that most of our teachers were recently trained on. I believe these two handouts were very, very helpful, and I would repeat this as well for future faculty meetings that I would be the administrator for. The meeting then started with a discussion about process, supporting, and readiness standards. Then she moved on into examples of rigor and the effects of rigor and how our elementary schools should apply rigor. In the third part of the meeting, we broke up into groups to discuss strategies learned in the Lead Forward conference. The meeting concluded with various and miscellaneous campus news items. The meeting was very productive overall. I felt good about the meeting in general. I felt like our administrator met all of the objectives that she wanted to accomplish. Again, the meeting didn't start on time due to technical issues. The PowerPoint could not be used because we hold our faculty meeting in the library, and the screen, laptop, and projection device had to be set up and didn't function properly. And this issue did not get resolved in time to use it for our meeting. For future reference, I would try to establish a more permanent setup for meetings and start earlier to prepare for the meeting. So either start earlier in preparing, moving all that equipment over there to get set up for the meeting, or try to establish a place to where we have everything set up already, and we can avoid these technical issues in future faculty meetings. The meeting did move on and was very productive. When we broke into the groups, there was one large group and 3 smaller groups. The groups could have been divided a little more evenly for greater participation, but yet still the small group production, it was very productive. All the teachers were participating, and the dialogue had a good amount of sharing of ideas and many different points of view. I believe this part of the meeting was very productive as well. The meeting then ended with announcements and some comments by our administrator and teachers, and then we were dismissed. Overall, I believe this meeting was very productive. A couple of changes I would make is trying to get ready for the meeting sooner. I would either get all the technical issues set up. I would use the handouts as our administrator did, which was very helpful. Probably break up those groups into more evenly divided groups for greater participation. But overall, the meeting was very productive. I believe all the objectives were met, and I look forward to leading a meeting of my own. Thank you.